Hello, welcome to Spotlight, a bauble of brilliance in artistic form.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
This evening, a little more from my walk around at the wonderful new hanging of pictures from the National Collection at the Manx Museum in Douglas, including some damaged ones, would you believe? A crash course in a great Manx Christmas tradition of bonkersness, which goes back 200 years or more. And a quirky poem and cautionary tale from the Manx Bard. Remember, do get in touch with any creative artistic endeavours you may be involved in, planning, hoping to create, or would really like to put in the spotlight. You can rattle off the list, can't you? Visual, theatrical, musical, poetic, literary, film, mime, ceramics, all the others. Email spotlight@manxradio.com. Howard Kane at manxradio.com. I get them both. Kane with an E. Do get in contact, though. That's the most important thing. We'd love to hear from you. So, Christmas means, what? Carols, Christmas trees, decorations, and on the Isle of Man, some wonderfully quirky traditions such as hunting the wren on Boxing Day, or perhaps the Whiteboys. These street performers have a tradition going back 200 years or more, but over those years they've come and gone a bit as traditions change. And tastes change in recent times? Well, they were around a lot during my youth in the late 60s and 70s. Then they appeared to vanish for a decade or two. But in the last few years, very much back on the streets, I'm glad to say. And they will be out and about this coming weekend. But what is it all about? Not the easiest question to answer, but we'll have a go, seeing as they're out on Saturday, courtesy of Peel Whiteboys members Nicola Toombs and a certain Dr. Jollop, who you might recognise from the Southern Whiteboys.
My legs are like two pipe shanks. My gosh, you are. My Christ! We are all brothers. Why should we be all for others? After this squabble, our hands let's join in friendship, and together let us dine. To a good meal, I would not object.
Good drink and cheer. Now that sounds correct.
Then here's success to all brave boys of stout and gallant heart. In battlefield or banquet boards prepared to play a part. We handle well with knife and fork, likewise a sword and spear. And we wish you a Merry Christmas and a good New Year. And we wish you a Merry Christmas and a good New Year.
Well, first of all, the Whiteboys, they're named for the white costumes that they wore. I imagine back in years ago it was just pragmatic. They probably just had big white sheets that they could repurpose for their costumes. So they became known as the Whiteboys because of the white costumes. We know that the first written instance of the Whiteboys is 200 years ago in 1832. In the newspapers it's written about. So we know it's been going for at least 200 years at least on the island, and it comes from this sort of idea that around the foolish fortnight, around Christmas time, you would indulge in all of these fun activities like Christmas carol singing, hunt the wren, all of these sort of fun things that invariably involve going out, having a bit of fun, entertaining people, gathering in a little bit of money, and the Whiteboys is part of that tradition, really.
You're nodding your head, Phil. Is that the way you see it as well? Or?
Well, I tend not to see these things at all. Annie Kizik, my research department, does all my thinking on these topics. But it appears to be a kind of a variant of various mummers' plays that have been performed all over the British Isles. But some interesting little glimpses in our versions. So, for example, at one point, the King of Egypt, in the version that has the King of Egypt, says, "Oh no, we are all brothers. Why should we be all through others?" Well, all through others is a direct link or lift from for the Caelia, which is a Manx Gaelic term, and I don't think we've been able to find all through others anywhere else in any of the other Whiteboys plays that are performed in England, Ireland, Scotland. So it gives us a fair indication that the Whiteboys has been around for quite a while, and it has been influenced by the Manx language. Because again, that might be a thing that people would be thinking, well, okay, 200 years ago, what were they all doing spouting English plays if most people spoke Manx? Interesting. I mean, it's fascinating stuff. And but for me, the history of the Whiteboys is I think great grandfather was the doctor. My dad was the doctor. I was the King of Egypt in the play that we did at Arbury Primary School, and I've now because I organise it, I get to pick the best part. So I'm the doctor primarily when we do the Whiteboys.
So is it? You mentioned there the sort of an English play. So is it a uniquely Manx tradition? Is it an English tradition filtered through the Isle of Man? Is it Celtic? Where do we know where the roots are?
There's tradition of mummers plays all over the British Isles, so not just in England, but you see it in Ireland. They have the tradition of the Wren Boys, they call them, and they go around. Or if you just do a quick Google, you can sometimes see little YouTube videos that people have uploaded, and some brilliant vintage ones there that have been done a while ago as well, from all over the British Isles. And as is often the case, sometimes on the fringes, these things tend to survive a bit better than they do maybe in the more sort of urban areas. So there's quite a good, strong tradition in the West Country, for example, in Gloucester, that's still going in Ireland, and of course on the Isle of Man as well.
So is anyone going to be brave enough to give us a précis of the story, such as it is?
So the story is one where somebody comes in, makes a fun announcement, a few local references come in, and then they welcome one of the saints. So we welcome in St. Patrick. Who do you welcome in, Phil? Who's your first saint?
We're a bit schizophrenic. We've got two variants that we do, but St. Denis and the King of Egypt went St. George are the two in the versions that we use.
Yeah, so we were a bit mischievous, really. We had St. George play the villainous character, and we introduced St. Mackled. So he's we thought we'd have a good Manx hero, so we've got St. Mackled, who's the Manx hero that defeats St. George. But it's always some saints fighting amongst themselves, and then they decide it's a terrible shame that a couple of them are dead, and they call for a doctor. And I'm sure Phil could tell us what the doctor does.
Ask what can the doctor cure?
What can the doctor cure, Phil?
All sorts of diseases, whatever you pleases. All pains within, all pains without. The plague, the palsy, and the gout. The COVID morbus, 2 complaints specific. I've a never failing and a grand specific. The itch, the stitch, and the molly grubs. I can cure all these deeds, all big-bellied maids and such like jades. Likewise, I'll pledge my life, I can cure a scolding wife. Let them be cursed or ever so stout. If the devil's in, I'll blow 'em out. So pretty much everything, really.
Interestingly, our doctor doesn't cure a scolding wife. He cures a lonely wife.
Right, yes, well.
So, but that's the great thing about it. You take that core script and you make it your own. And we'd absolutely encourage any other groups that wanted to come and have a go. We'd help them. We'd furnish them with swords and costumes and scripts and anything it'd be great to see another group of players. You were saying before, Howard, you've never done a Whiteboys before.
It's on my list.
Maybe a Manx Radio Whiteboys. That would be a good
Manx
one.
Radio Whiteboys.
Yeah.
Is there a message, would you say, from the actual performance? Is there a sort of message at the end of it that people take away, or is it just a piece of wonderful folk nonsense?
It's certainly folk nonsense. A lot of people say, I didn't really quite understand what was going on there. And we said, well, neither do we. But there is a sort of a message, and it's sort of a Christmas message, because the doctor pulls from his pocket this bottle of Rixum, Raxum, Prixum, Praxum with Icocolori and brings people back to life. And it's kind of sort of ties in with the Christian message of resurrection and things. But maybe I'm reading far too much into it. We were very interested. My research department found yesterday or the day before a variant of the play that's performed in Ulster, and very similar lines. And there's talk, the devil appears and little devil doubt, and all these sort of questioners and things. But ultimately, they all live again and become friends and live happily ever after and get plenty of good beer and money.
It was probably primarily
Yeah.
done by men and boys, but we have got evidence that there were girls doing it as well. We've got some photographs in the archives of girls in the troupe, so yeah.
We wish you a good New Year.
I've still no idea what it's all about, but I think I understand that is rather the point. The Peel Whiteboys are out this very weekend, Saturday the 16th of December, 10 a.m. Kirkmichael outside Cannon Court, 11:30 a.m. Ramsey outside the courthouse, 2 p.m. Peel in Michael Street, and 5 p.m. Peel, the Black Dog Pizza Oven. Sadly, the Southern Whiteboys, with Dr. Phil Gorn, of course, you might have recognised talking there, aren't out before Christmas this year, but they can be seen performing on Old Christmas Eve, Eelvery, 4th of January, 7:30, at Arbury Parish Hall in Ballabeg, along with all the great Manx performers like Kedjan Kudja, Annie Kissack and the Lockdown Lovelies. Sounds a great night. Don't miss it. How about a quick poem from the bard, Boxy Class? And this week she has some words of wisdom and warning.
This poem is called A Cautionary Tale, and it is a true story, honestly. I'll tell you all a story, give some advice to you about a little accident I had when cleaning through my kitchen, then the bathroom. So much work I had to do. I thought I'd bleach the toilet bowl 'cause I'd run out of blue. I poured domestos round the rim, then wiped some on the seat and left it there to do its work and leave things clean and neat. I had to run some errands, do some shopping, pay some bills. Then I slowly struggled homeward against the stormy wintry chills. The cold and damp affected me in ways I'm sure you'll guess. So by the time I reached my flat, I felt quite in distress. Hurriedly I reached my door and fumbled with my key because, my friends, by this time I was desperate for a pee. My poor bladder couldn't wait once I had left the street, so I clean forgot the germicide I'd left upon the seat. Down I sat in sweet relief, but only for a second, as the bleach began to burn my bum. On that I hadn't reckoned. So please remember, people, when you put that bleach down neat, to double check you've washed it off before you use the seat. Oh, the day I bleached my bottom. What a potty thing to do. I really felt a silly ass when I sat down on that loo.
Spotlight. Brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
Now, you might already been to have had a look at the wonderful new gallery at the Manx Museum in Douglas, featuring some amazing artworks from the National Collection, some being seen in public for the first time in living memory. Well, I had a sneak preview just prior to its opening. We heard a bit last week. I went around with the Curator of Art and Social History, Katie King. She showed me around the exhibition and explained how Manx National Heritage were keen to both ensure the collection was kept in good condition for future generations, of course, but also how they wanted people to be able to actually see the art in the flesh, as it were, not just in digitised form, even if it was light sensitive perhaps, or even damaged.
Basically, the approach we've taken is get them all out. So there's 140 artworks on display, which is more than we've ever had in a single gallery before. So there's a lot of what we call grand salon hangs, and that basically means we've grouped artworks together, and every artwork has been researched and a story has been written about it. So hopefully when you come into the gallery, you might learn a little something about the artist, or you might learn a little bit something about the person in the painting or the scene, or you might just learn a story that we've uncovered that we think is interesting. So we've tried to make the interpretation engaging as well. And if you just like to look at beautiful things and you don't want to read anything, then this gallery looks quite beautiful. We've been very bold. We've painted we've refreshed gallery walls themselves to this very vibrant green, to try and get some of our historic collections to pop a little bit more. And we've also got a section dedicated to contemporary art, which we've never done before. So many people probably don't know, but from the 1950s until the 1980s, the Isle of Man was home to a man called Alan Milner. Now, he was one of the leading 20th century British artists of his day. He basically trailblazed abstract art in Britain, so he's fantastically famous. And we have a good number of his artworks in the collection. So when he moved to the Isle of Man, he fully embraced all things Isle of Man. He was a member of the Man in Art Society, and he tried to encourage his contemporaries to have a go at this sort of new abstract modern art that wasn't just about painting what you see, but moving beyond that. And he would exhibit alongside John Hobson Nicholson and William Hoggart. And they were great friends. And I found a very sweet article in the Ramsey Courier that said, no matter your views on Alan Milner's work, there's no doubting that he tried his best. So, yeah, the works are quite
Damning
challenging.
with faint praise.
Yeah, but they're so vibrant, and we're very proud here to have such a substantial collection of his artwork. He's highly sought of. And we've got a section dedicated to the work of Brian Neal as well, to show the depth and breadth of his work. I mean, he's still one of the leading British artists of the 21st century. So we've got a section dedicated to him, and we've got lots of sculpture out as well. And we are also really celebrating one of my favourite Manx artists, John Miller Nicholson. So we do have nearly 1,000 pieces by him in the collection, basically because when the museum was established in the 1920s, he died in 1919, and his entire studio collection was donated to the museum at that time. So it includes very beautiful and impressive oil paintings that are in fantastic condition because he never sold or exhibited his work. So they don't have the problems of other paintings that have got, smoke on them and tar and stuff like that. So they're in great condition. But we've also got his sketchbooks, and he was fanatical about sketching what he was going to paint. So we've got a massive work by him. So I do spotlight him quite a lot in the exhibition, because it was really important as well, because he set up the Douglas School of Art, and from that, everyone I've mentioned has come out of that amazing school. But I wanted to show you the damaged art section as well. Can I take you around?
You can, yeah. I'll try not to damage it. Right. Okay, switch over the barrier and we'll paddle over here.
So we do have a painting out that everyone's very excited about. It's called The Goose Fair by an artist called Franz Hopfner. And because it's Christmas time, it looks like a scene out of Dickensian sort of London, but it's in fact Old St Matthew's Church in Douglas, with the sort of geese being sold for Christmas and all of that. So people are very excited to be seeing that at the moment. But let me bring you around here.
Just around the side here, so lots of work on progress here, and we'll just go into a little gallery in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was telling you that a lot of our artwork is damaged, and I can tell you that, but there's probably there's no better way to demonstrate that than by hanging it. So we have in fact got a little section here called Care of Collections, and we have got a set of 7 artworks that are damaged in different ways and have been damaged in different ways. I should stress, none of this damage has been caused by us. These have been collected in this condition. These days, we would not collect art in this condition because we know how expensive it is to get that in display condition. However, that wasn't the case in the past. So it is a historic collection, and we have historic issues with the collection. So our conservators have written labels to explain what's caused the damage that you're looking at and what can be done to remedy it, because you'd be amazed what can be done to remedy it. So there you go. So we've got this fantastic painting of a brig, a ship, a sailing vessel called the Cronk Bane. It's a really interesting picture. It's very old, and it looks absolutely horrendous condition, but most of that is a staining of the varnish, so that could be, the varnish could be taken off and it could be brought back to really quite good condition. We've got an example of the problems of no framing. So this is a portrait of Captain Carron of the Carron fleet. Beautifully piercing eyes in this portrait.
Yeah, it's amazing eyes, isn't it?
But it hasn't got a frame, and to have a frame that would suit this painting is something that is quite difficult to source on island, and it's got this crackle appearing as well, probably because it's been stored for a very long time without any protection before it came to us. It's got this crackling, and then this is... well, we've been debating about this being in too good condition, actually, for this zone.
It looks almost new, this one.
But the problem here is a
watermark
staining. So it's got water stain right down the middle, which has caused like a mould and a foxing here. So Emma, our paper conservator, is explaining in her label what can be done to remove the staining. And this is a watercolour piece, so it's... you would imagine that getting water on the watercolour would be quite a disaster. But she's talking about how this is a piece of equipment that we don't have, but we could maybe, have one day, would be able to fix this problem. So, and then back to the problem of framing, we've got a little John Miller Nicholson here. And we wanted to demonstrate how, yes, we could exhibit a painting in a damaged frame, but I don't know about you, but when you look at this painting, your eye is drawn to that damage. It is not drawn to the painting.
Yeah, a piece of the frame actually missing there.
Yeah. So art is aesthetic, and you cannot show art that is... you can't expect someone to appreciate the painting if you are only looking at the damage. So we have to be mindful of that. And whilst we're here, this is our dark zone. So come in here.
Oh gosh, it is dark zone.
So the light will come on. We haven't quite fixed it yet. So basically, we also have artwork in our collection that is so sensitive to light that it can no longer be seen in the light. So we have some options. We never show it again in a gallery like this, or we create a dark room, and that's what we've done here. So we've got 3 extremely sensitive artworks created on newspaper by an artist called Hugo Darshinger, who was interned on the Isle of Man. They've never been seen before in public. They're very vulnerable because they've been done on using children's palette paints with no... there's no pigment integrity on that, so they'll fade very quickly. And the newspaper naturally is aging and browning itself. So we've had them framed for the first time. And as you come into this room, a light will come on for about a minute, a very low light, and then it will go off again. And that will enable us to show these pieces for longer. Next to them, we've got 2 very rare paintings from the First World War internment camp, actually, by an artist called George Kenner, and they are watercolour. But again, you have to question the pigment strength of watercolours that they were using in these camps, the material they were using. It's one of a handful of graphic representations we have on a Kalo, so we can't just be whacking those out in a gallery in full light. We can't do that. So they're in here as well. And this will enable us to rotate this art as well. So some very damaged watercolours we've got will now be able to be displayed because we've got this technology to do this now. And the other thing we've done to help people access our art collection is the vast majority of our art collection has been digitised. So it's on our collection site, imuseum.im. So you can delve through our art collection now. I think it's something like 70% of the collection is available there, which is a huge number. So we've tried really hard to make sure that people can access the art that we look after for them.
And again, in this dark section, it's that whole question, isn't it? It begs the question of, is there a point of having art if you can't actually display it to see it? So
exactly.
It's just wonderful to see it out.
Yeah, and that's what we really want to get to the bottom of. Like, we have a duty of care for the art to look after it forever. We do, but it also needs to be seen. So we need to strike this balance. And with new technology like this, and trying new things and being brave, that's what we do at Manx Heritage. We like to try and push ourselves to not just be same old, but push ourselves.
And if you haven't got down to have a look at the new gallery hangings, do yourself a favour, check it out when you can. Well worth the visit. Museum is open 7 days a week, 9:30 to 4:30. Do be aware it is closed around this time of the year on Christmas Day, Boxing Day and New Year's Day. That's about it for this week. Don't forget, if you want to hear anything again, go to manxradio.com, download the Spotlight podcast, listen where and when you want. Why not try it whilst out, trying not to panic that you're running out of time to get those various Christmas preparations done. See you next week. Until then, look after yourselves, and whatever you're doing, be creative about it. Cheerio.